Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the May 1st meeting of the City of Vista Planning Commission. Would you please stand and join us in the Pledge of Allegiance led by Commissioner Looney.
Let's begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Ms. Turley, would you call the roll, please?
Let the record reflect that all commissioners are present, with the exception of a student, both student commissioners. Thank you.
Okay, very good. Commissioners, before you, you have the minutes from our April 3rd meeting. Are there any changes to the minutes? If not, can I hear a motion to approve? Commissioner Carroll.
I'll make a motion to approve.
Commissioner Kramer.
I second the motion.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve the minutes from April 3rd. Please cast your vote. And the minutes from the April 3rd meeting are approved unanimously. Mr. Connolly, I guess, any changes to the agenda?
No changes this evening, Chairman.
Thank you. Ladies and gentlemen, the next item on our agenda is oral communications. This is time we set aside to hear from the public on items that are not on our agenda. I have no speaker slips, and anyone wanting to speak to the commission? If not, we will move along to our first public hearing. Public hearing number 1 is Pheasant Hill. Ms. Chow, your staff report, please.
Good evening, Chairman Rossler, Planning Commissioners.
Ms. Chow, just a moment. Commissioner
I'm
Carroll?
recusing from this item because I live within 500 feet of the project.
Sorry about that.
Okay.
All right. Proceed. Thank you.
Good evening, Chairman Rossler, Planning Commissioners. I'm Patsy Chow, I'm Deputy Director of Community Development Department, City Planner. Pleased to be here this evening presenting the first public hearing item before you this evening. Also wanted to mention right after my presentation, the applicant will have a formal presentation that they have tonight, so I just wanted to mention that before I forget. So this item before you is a request for a specific plan amendment, site development plan, and a tentative subdivision map for a project called Pheasant Hill. It's planning case file 16-0310. Before I dive into the actual project and the specifics of it, I wanted to give you a little bit of background about this particular project, the subject project site. So Pheasant Hill's specific plan was originally adopted by the City Council back in 2007, specifically September 11th, 2007. In that particular specific plan, a total of 15 single-family lots, homes were identified, with one access point being Lado de Loma Drive. So over the years, the specific plan was not put into effect, essentially, but nonetheless, it is the originally adopted document for that site. Then on April 5th, 2016, a developer came before you through an early design review meeting and had a conversation with you about a proposed project consisted of 30 condominium units in 15 separate buildings, with one access point being Lado de Loma Drive. So a more dense project than what was originally adopted by Council back in 2007. Later on, through a submittal of this project, formal submittal after the design review, I received a lot of calls from the neighbors, surrounding property owners, concerned or having questions about the proposed project. So I requested the developer to hold a neighborhood meeting, which was held here at Vista Civic Center on June 26, 2017. In that particular meeting, several issues were brought up, concerns about the density, traffic, and the accessibility to the subject project site, impacts to the neighborhood and surrounding neighboring properties, also specifically dealing with an access issue via the subject project site. So fast forward to today, which brings us here to the proposed project, which is before you tonight. It's, again, a site development plan with a tentative subdivision map and a specific plan amendment of that original Pheasant Hill specific plan. So it's now called or proposed as the Pheasant Hill specific plan. It is a 3.35 acre subject parcel before you to create 24 single-family lots plus 2 additional lots. One would be Lot A, which is the HOA common area, and then the other one is Lot B, which is the private street 8 within the project. There will be 24 single-family homes at a density of 7.16 dwelling units per acre, and the lot sizes would range from approximately 3,000 square feet to about 7,300 square feet. Each of the homes would have 4 parking spaces, 2 covered parking spaces, 2 open parking spaces on the driveway, plus 12 on-street parking spaces along Street A. Drainage improvements, wet and dry utilities, all of the associated infrastructure be part of the project. And again, private Street A is the street that's serving this particular subdivision, or would be serving the particular subdivision. There would also be a small common area, common open space area, and private yard areas for each of the single-family home lots. This is an aerial photo showing the existing uses surrounding the Pheasant Hill, the project that's in red on this particular slide. So you have residential and uses to the north, to the west and south, and commercial uses across NCTD right-of-way of the railroad tracks along Mercantile and South Santa Fe. The subject site is zoned Pheasant Hill specific plan, and the general plan designation is medium density at 10 dwelling units per acre. This is a 3D view of the project site from Lago de Loma at the bottom of the screen, looking down into the subject site, the railroad tracks at the top of the picture there. The self-storage location across Guajome Street, across opposite the project site, and surrounded by the single-family homes. A couple of other views of the subject project site, the one on the left looking north and the one on the right looking south. And you can see, obviously, it's on a hillside, as you already are aware. But I thought it would be kind of just a good representation so you can see how it relates to the surrounding neighbors. The site plan shows Lot A, which is the HOA lot, Lot B, which is, again, the private Street A, which has, again, the 24 single-family lots along it. And the green area is the HOA-maintained common seating area that has the trees and the bench within that particular passive area there. I wanted to talk to you a little bit about Guajome Street and Lago de Loma as far as what's proposed there. So on the left side of the screen, there is a picture of the project exit onto Guajome Street. And at that particular point, there would be only the allowance for a right-in and right-out movement from that end of the project, which is a secondary access. The reason for that is that there is a median that I highlighted there in blue, which is a proposed median that's actually consistent with design for the Inland Rail Trail. That staff had a meeting with the California Public Utilities Commission, SANDAG staff, our traffic engineering staff, to talk about the proposed design for Guajome Street for the bike trail, the Inland Rail Trail crossing. So that median is consistent with that design, and because of that meeting, obviously we're trying to minimize conflicts with the railroad crossing, and therefore you have the right in, right out only at that location off of Guajome. So moving to the middle part and to the right, I included some drawings about the line of sight or the stopping sight distance meeting Caltrans standards, which is 150 feet. And basically on Guajome Street, which is the middle picture rendering there, it shows the 150 feet meeting that particular requirement, where they actually show that they can actually reach 200 feet at that point off of Guajome. And then on the right side, you have the Lago de Loma entrance, which is the primary entrance to the project. And again, it meets the 150 feet of the site, the stopping site distance requirement per Caltrans going north and then going south. And in fact, going north, it meets more than that. It's at 175. So essentially, the project meets these line of sight requirements as far as exiting the project, Caltrans stop sight distance requirement. It is consistent with the IRT, the Inland Rail Trail, the proposed improvements on Guajome Street. And I also wanted to point out, because traffic was a concern as throughout the several neighborhood meetings, that a traffic study was put together, was prepared, was analyzed, reviewed by staff and traffic engineering staff, and it was prepared April of 2017. And in that study, and also identified in the CEQA, the mitigated neg deck document, that the project will not create any direct significant impacts, and therefore there are no mitigation measures related to traffic related to this project. So none are required or identified for the project. So I just wanted to point that out. As far as some issues that were raised during the project review that I wanted to bring up to your attention that are not part of Planning Commission's action tonight, one of which has to do with Rhoda Lane street vacation. I highlighted it in orange on this particular slide, which is actually found as a public road easement and it exists today as it's known Rhoda Lane within the project site, and it's called out on the tentative map. However, this road needs to be vacated because there is a private street that's being proposed as part of the project, a private street with public utility easements as part of the Pheasant Hill project. So prior to the final map recordation, it is proposed that the Rhoda Lane will actually be and will need to be vacated so that there are no conflicts and there's really, because of the private street already being part of the project. But the street vacation, as I mentioned earlier, it really falls under the City Council's authority. So it is not part of the Planning Commission's action tonight, and that will be considered in a future City Council hearing along with the project. The other issue that I wanted to bring to your attention that was raised during the project review has to do with prescriptive easement. As it's shown on this slide, there are two neighbors that are highlighted in blue that expressed concerns the project design as proposed would actually impair their ability to have secondary access to the rare portions of their properties via what's called a prescriptive easement that the particular neighbors claim that they possess. However, the easement is not found in any records in the county records, and it hasn't been recognized by a judgment issued by a California court. So therefore, the state law, neither state law nor the Vista Development Code really give authorization to the Planning Commission to consider this and to base your determination on this alleged prescriptive easement. So I just wanted to point that out tonight as well. However, in light of all that I just mentioned in regards to the access, the developer has decided through numerous reviews of the project to actually increase the required, which was required by sanitation staff, to provide a 6-foot wide at the bottom of the hill that you see highlighted in blue for future possible sewer connections for nearby neighboring properties. And the developer, in an effort to try to address this concern that I previously described in the previous slide about access, increased the width of that access to 12 feet within a 20-foot private access and public sewer easement. And that, again, is to not only address the possibility of future sewer connection needs, but also to address the possibility of future access if negotiated by the affected parties. The particular access and the easement will be gated at both ends, so to avoid people loitering or parking cars or what have you, or using that as extra parking area. But it would be gated at both ends per sanitation's requirement. In terms of our general plan and development standards, just mentioning it again here, that in the general plan it is designated as 10 dwelling units per acre, which would allow a total of 34 units. However, the project is at 24 units, which is at a density at 7.16 below 10. In the Pheasant Hill specific plan, they identified the development standards such as the building height, which will be a maximum of 2 stories or 35 feet, whichever is less, which is very similar to our citywide ordinance in terms of our residential zones. The homes are proposed at 26 feet total height. The setback meets the front yard of 20 feet, side yards of 4, and rear yard of 15 feet. A total of 48 required covered spaces are provided, as well as 48 guest spaces on the driveways, plus the 12 spaces on Street A. The landscaping meets the minimum of 15. It's provided at 32% of the site. I asked the developer to put a few cross-sections for clarification in terms of how the site relates to surrounding, being Guajome Street, Laro de Loma, and the properties up north, up above, looking down on the project site. So the first cross-section, the yellow line, is basically the houses that are on Laro de Loma, and you can see the proposed housings, which are lower than what the existing houses are at. You have the, obviously, the retaining walls in order to create the pads for the proposed homes. And then you have the private street A, and then the separation after the retaining wall to the railroad tracks, basically, the NCTD right-of-way. The middle section is the red line, which is parallel to the yellow up above, and basically going through the houses, the 9 homes that are going down on the street A, and shows the relationship of Laro de Loma as you are descending down into the homes, and then further down at the bottom is the 20-foot wide easement for sewer, and then after that, obviously, the retaining wall and the NCTD right-of-way with the railroad tracks there at the bottom. The blue is cutting across perpendicular to those lines, and you have the first house off of Guajome Street. I believe it's 212, the address, and then you have the driveway that's separating that house to the first house proposed on this project. The 9 homes, again, through retaining walls, and then you step up to get to the portion of the road that's coming off of Laro de Loma. In terms of surrounding zoning and lot sizes, just wanted to identify that to the west you have the R1B zone pieces of property that are minimum 6,000 square foot required lot sizes. As far as existing conditions as it is now, the sizes of the lots range from 5,400 square feet to about 40,000 or so, as I kind of surveyed around the areas just to see what the sizes of the lots were. The RM15 zone to the north, it's a 6,000 square foot minimum lot size requirement, 15 dwelling units per acre. And existing conditions also approximately starting at 6,500 square feet lot sizes to 18,000 or so. Further to the east, you have the downtown specific plan area that's mixed use at 40 dwelling units per acre, so at much higher density. And obviously we have the commercial uses along the Mercantile and South Santa Fe. And again, the project is proposing lot sizes from about 3,000 square feet to about 7,300 square feet lot sizes, which provides some sort of a transition, if you will, from the downtown specific plan, where it's a higher density is expected, then providing a transition to the R1B zone pieces of property and the multifamily projects as well to the north. In terms of the landscape plan, the landscaping, as I mentioned before, 32% of the site is landscaped, which exceeds the 15% requirement in our code and in our landscape manual. They provide a variety of native and non-native plant materials and requiring low and moderate water use. In terms of the architectural elevations, these are 2-story homes, maximum height of 26 feet, as I mentioned. The style of the architecture that you see on this slide is Spanish Revival. That's characterized by concrete as-tile roofs with stucco finish and stucco pot shelves. We also have Craftsman style with the concrete flat tile roofs, shingle siding, decorative wood shutters. And Beach Cottage, which you have concrete flat tile roofs, Barton batten siding, and decorative wood front doors and shutters as well. There are a total of 3 floor plans, and each of them have 2 elevations proposed. So you have floor plan 1, which is a 3-bedroom, 2.5 bath, floor 2, which is 4-bedroom, 2.5, and floor plan 3, which is a 4-bedroom, 3-bath proposal. There's also a total of 4 color schemes, in addition to what I said as far as the 3 floor plans and 2 elevations each, and they kind of pick from each of these color schemes as trying to provide some variety in architectural style and color out there as well. In terms of environmental review, a mitigated neg deck was prepared for the project, and it is included in the staff report as Exhibit A to Exhibit 1. The mitigation requirements are summarized in that document. We went through a public review period from March 30th to April 18th, and we received a total of 6 letters, comments from various parties and agencies, and we responded to all of those. And also the responses were provided to the commenters, and they're all included in the MND document in the staff report. And again, early design review was held on this, for this particular project on April 5th, 2016. The Planning Commission had a discussion about density, site design and grading, parking, traffic, amenities, and landscaping, and architecture. Although there were no comments from the Commission on architecture, the Commission talked a lot about the density that was proposed at the time, which was higher than what it is before you tonight, and concerns and issues about grading and parking and so forth, which I've described it in detail in my staff report as to how these issues have been identified and how they've been addressed as part of the project. In terms of the general plan, development code, and design guidelines, the project is consistent with the development code, with the design guidelines, and the general plan designation, as I mentioned before, as the proposed 7.16 dwelling units per acre is below the 10 that's allowed by the general plan. And the proposed single-family project has been designed after many reviews with staff and reiterations and modifications to try to respect the scale and proportion and character of what is out there in the surrounding neighborhood area, considering the fact of the existing landform that you all are aware of and familiar with, the existing landform of the hillside on the site as it exists today. So with that, staff's recommendation is for Planning Commission to recommend to the City Council approval of the mitigated neg deck, as well as the specific plan amendment, the site development plan, and the tentative subdivision map for the 24 single-family homes. And this concludes my staff presentation. And the applicant has a presentation, as I mentioned before, so I don't know if you want to listen to that first or ask me questions if you have anything. So I'm available if you have any questions. Thank you.
Any questions for staff? Commissioner Looney?
Thank you. Patsy, is there any provision for encroachment into the side yard setbacks on any of these parcels?
The code does allow for that, as far as fireplaces or things that, architectural features that need to encroach within the setback, within the 4 feet. That's something that's normally addressed in our development code.
On the plans, the basic structure is 24 feet, and then we have an additional foot in width for like an entry porch. Some of the parcels are 32 feet in width. There is also a parcel number 5 that's 23 feet in width. And from my review, it seems that some of these homes encroach into the setbacks. There's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. There's a possibility of 10 lots where the side yard setbacks are being compromised less than 4 feet.
And that could be very well related to architectural features that are allowed by the code as far as encroaching within the 4 feet. But it should not deplete or completely deplete. That should not be the case, though.
On lot 5, and this is just the one that's most obvious, it's 23 feet wide. Mm-hmm. Our structure is 25 feet wide. I'm sorry, I'm misreading this. It is 33 feet. I'm just concerned that some of these are just, they're down to the inch. And
Yes.
some of the property lines are at an angle, so we're not getting the full width of that particular parcel. Before I would approve something like this, I just want to make sure the staff has done their due diligence in reviewing the size of the building relative to the setbacks of each parcel.
Yes, we have.
I think there's...
Yes, I realize that. Yes, we have done the review.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I guess I'll just add on to that. My overall great unease with this project. I know that 34 structures are allowed by the code. I know they cut the number down from our first review. It still seems like very many too many. I wish they still had to abide by the 15.
Commissioner Jaffrey, did you have a question from staff?
Well, okay,
Or
so
we
that's,
can hold our comments
that's an
to-
opinion, but I do have a question about the road. Just driving along to look at the property, I know you've had the traffic study done. Are you sure that's safe?
As far as Lado de Loma?
Yeah.
Yes, according to the traffic study, as I mentioned before, there are no issues related to Lado de Loma. We realize what is the condition as it exists today. Nobody's going to refute that. However, as far as the project is concerned, as far as impacts from that project, traffic impacts from that particular project, there are no direct impacts related to Lado de Loma or Guajome.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, we're going to hear from the applicant. They have a prepared presentation. After that, I will open the public hearing. We have a number of speaker slips, so if you'll, I will call your name. If you'll come up, you'll have 3 minutes to address the commission on items that you want to talk to us about on this project. So we'll turn it over to the applicant. Is it Mr. Lenz? Who's going to make the presentation for your group? Okay. Name and address for the record, please.
Yes, Commissioners. My name is Chris Darling. I represent the ownership team for the proposed project. I live at 3717 Ruette, R-U-E-T-T-E, San Rafael, R-A-P-H-A-E-L, San Diego, California, 92130. Patsy, are you going to? Okay, fine. Oh, I don't know. Mark, do you mind doing this? I have no clue. Our general overview, some of this is a little bit redundant. I'll try to be as unredundant as possible. But our group initially proposed a 30-unit SFA project. We conducted a neighborhood outreach meeting in March of 2016 and subsequently presented the project to the Planning Commission at an early design review meeting in April 2016. The original project density was 8.95, and the general plan for the property is 10 dwelling units per acre. The Community Development Commission of the City of Vista owns this particular property, and we've been in an extended escrow. Upon sale of the project, all the sales proceeds will transfer to the City of Vista Housing Authority. Based on the neighborhood input, we redesigned the project to 25 lots. In June 2017, we conducted an additional neighborhood outreach meeting where a prescriptive rights easement issue was raised by 2 neighbors. After a series of meetings with these neighbors in the city, the lot count was reduced to 24 lots, 7.16 dwelling units per acre at the end of 2017. It is the opinion of our attorney that these 2 neighbors do not have a prescriptive easement to their properties. However, we met with both neighbors to work out a solution to the issue. We could not make any progress with one of the neighbors. One of them was amenable, and we had an agreement in general terms. So once we could not make progress with the second, we decided that the sewer access road that the city required would double as a potential road for the 2 neighbors if the neighbors could work out their easement rights with additional neighbors and meet the city requirements for their portion of the road if it ever goes in. We also worked with California Public Utilities Commission, SANDAG, and the North County Transit District to procure secondary access in and out of the project from Guahomie Street. That never existed when the first project was approved. It was a cul-de-sac, and everybody took access off of Lado de Loma. At this point, we actually will be equal or less traffic on Lado de Loma than, at least the traffic study indicates that, than what the original project was, because half the people will be exiting out to Guahomie and then South Santa Fe and going either left or right. The access point will be a right-hand turn in and out. The previous project did not have this access point. The Pheasant Hill property abuts the NCTD railroad tracks, and beyond that, the commercial industrial properties on Mercantile Street. The proximity to the railroad tracks and the commercial industrial uses lends itself to a higher density residential use. That's why the general plan allows for 10 dwelling units per acre. Our current density is 7.16, well below the general plan. I've built other projects in Oceanside where I've had this same situation up against railroad tracks, and it was always a little bit of trying to work out what kind of density. There was either a hybrid multi-family or and some single family, in most cases multifamily, just because next to railroad tracks it's hard to sell single family homes, higher end homes. We have designed the project with forced parking spaces. I think Patsy did a good job of lining out everything about that, so I won't spend a whole lot of time there. We offered to install a four-way stop sign at the intersection of our project on Lado de Loma and the cul-de-sac across the street from our project. We'd be happy to do that. However, the city engineer indicated this was not necessary based on the traffic flows in this area. Traffic impacts upon Lado de Loma and Guahomie are negligible and are supported by the traffic impact study that was performed by our consultant and reviewed by the city's consultant. There's no ability to widen Lado de Loma. We have created, I think we talked about, a seating area along the internal street as a passive recreational amenity. There was no such area in the prior approved specific plan. In addition, the rail trail, biking and running trail will be located adjacent to the project. Also, there are 8 parks located within 1.5 miles of the Pheasant Hill project. In addition, based on our preliminary discussions with the city, we learned that their Pheasant Hill project was deemed to be a critical core sediment yield area, which would render the city-owned property to be undevelopable. We worked diligently with the city engineering department and Torrey Walker and Associates, an outside city consultant, to have the property removed from the list so the property could be developed. It just, after a fair amount of due diligence, it was proved to the city by Torrey Walker that the current situation was meeting the critical core sediment yield area that was being taken care of because of an area that is down along the retail center, which ultimately all the water flows into and the sediment drops at that point. It's an issue we didn't know when we first got involved that we were going to have to grapple with, but we tried to get that solved for the city, and that was one of the first things that we had to do. Let me go ahead and turn this over to our architect, Roger Basinger, for the next set of comments.
Good evening. My name is Roger Basinger. I'm with Architects BP Associates, address 11858 Bernardo Plaza Court, Suite 120, San Diego 92128. I'm going to just highlight some of the information, again, facts that Patsy presented on the architecture. Here, we wanted to create a pleasant neighborhood for first-time home buyers and families to be able to buy in Vista, be a part of the city, and contribute. So we designed a 24-lot single-family home development, which will, again, be 3 different floor plans ranging in size from 1,781 square feet, 1,855 square feet, and 1,941 square feet. These homes include 3 bedrooms, 2.5 baths, up to 4 bedrooms and 3 baths. So a nice starter home for families here in Vista and elsewhere. Each home will have an attached 2-car garage and also parking for 2 additional spaces in the driveways. And additionally, there are 12 more guest spaces in the community. So in total, 108 parking spaces. The homes will have 3 different elevations, again, including Spanish Revival, Craftsman, and Coastal Cottage, each with varying materials and 4 distinct color schemes, giving it a nice community street scene, a lot of materials and comfortable associations with each of those styles. All the elevations will be articulated with that style in mind, all 4 sides, which will have offsetting wall planes, varying roof lines, and a mix of materials. Again, the intent is to have our new community blend into the existing fabric of the surrounding neighborhoods, yet with a fresh and updated appeal. The articulated and enhanced elevations on all 4 sides. Details include shingle or board and bat siding, stucco, a variety of stone veneers, shutters, outlookers, knee braces, and trellis. And the roofs will be a combination, depending on the style, either barrel tile or a flat concrete tile. And each unit will have their own private fenced yards and patios off the rear of the homes for each personal use and enjoyment. So again, at Pheasant Hills, we designed this community for first-time home buyers and individuals to become part of the wonderful city of Vista. And if you have any questions, I'm more than happy to respond.
Stay close. I'm sure we'll have questions for you.
Okay.
Good evening, Chair, Commissioners. My name is Mark Prinsick. I'm the civil engineer on the project. My address is 9555 Genesee Avenue, Suite 200, San Diego 92121. I think what I've heard from the comment from the Commissioner mainly is the density issue of this project. And I think it's really important to compare it to the previous project. There was a 15-lot single-family detached project. But I've been involved with this project since 2005. I did the original intent on map, the specific plan. So I've been involved with this project for a long time now. And it's sat for a long time, the project. A lot of developers looked at it. We did lots of feasibility studies for multiple different developers for the project. But it never penciled out. The reason it never penciled out is because of the infrastructure costs. And that's kind of what I wanted to point out to you. This site is, there's really not too many ways to design it other than, connecting the La Loma and connecting the Guajome. With the flat area you need for the road, the flat area you need for the houses, you're going to need walls on each side of the project, no matter if there's 10 homes or 30 homes. It's basically that you're stuck with the topography out there. So you have to have a lot of walls, a lot of infrastructure costs to build on this site. So it takes quite a few numbers of homes to support that kind of infrastructure. And basically we're at the bare minimum right now to make the project feasible and to move the project forward. So I kind of outlined that in my statements, but it's basically the edge conditions around the projects don't change. You got the railroad on one side and existing homes pretty much around the other side. And there's a good elevation difference between one side to the other. So that requires a lot of walls, a lot of infrastructure, and that's going to be there no matter how many homes are on this site. I kind of ran through that. And the main difference between this project and the original 15-lot project is connecting to Guajome. And I think it's been identified by several people, but that really helps the traffic situation for this project to be real similar to the level of traffic that was at the 15-lot subdivision. So we think we've done everything we can to try to mitigate the number of lots that are necessary for this project to pencil out and to be feasible for a developer to build it by connecting Guajome and trying to split the traffic and providing substantial parking for how many homes are on this project. I think Roger said 108 spots for 24 homes. It's just got a lot of parking. And we knew that was a really big concern of the neighbors is parking, that no one parks on Guajome. There's nowhere to park on Guajome. And we think we did everything we can to make this project feasible and can move it forward. And that's all I have. Thank you for your time. Did you have any questions?
Any questions? Well, why don't we wait till the end of your presentation? Is that the end of it? Okay. Any questions for the applicant then? Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I'm not sure if this is a question for Mr. Darling or Mr. Brunswick, but my question is on the right in, right out on the Guajome. Is the project going to be gated, or does this access from Guajome into the project allow for cut-through traffic?
It does allow for cut-through traffic.
Okay, so there will be additional traffic going through the project that might be further east or south on Lara de Loma. See what I mean?
Yeah, you'll have the ability to cut through this project. It's not going to be gated, is your answer. So we'll be
Okay.
open to the bulk. It's a private street, but there'll be no gates, so people will take advantage of that, I'm sure.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have right now.
Commissioner Garrison.
Yes, just probably a pretty obvious question about safety of people walking, because you're a mile and a half from, and I assume that's as the crow flies, a mile and a half from the parks, because you got some pretty treacherous roads in order to get to them. So going in and out from Lara de Loma, there are sidewalks on both sides, correct?
Lara Loma has no sidewalks.
I'm sorry, from Lara de Loma into the project.
Yes, there's a
There are
sidewalk.
projects on both sides.
Yes,
And as you make the turn, there's a sidewalk only on the northwest side,
on the side where the homes are, correct.
on the side road. But that extends all the way to Guajome
Correct.
and all the way up. Okay.
Yeah. So it'd be a good connection to the bike trail that they're going to do on the NCTD. It'll be all.
And the
all
trail will
pedestrian
be
paths for that.
immediately, that would be east of the
Yeah.
project.
You make a right and it's right there.
And so access from this project to the trail will be very easy,
Very easy. Right.
because that makes a big difference in terms of recreation and getting places. The other thing is there will be no parking no street parking except for where the designated parking spots are. Is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. I just wanted to say the obvious. Thank you.
Okay. I had a couple of questions for you. In your Plan 3, maybe this is best for the architect. In your Plan 3, on the downstairs, you have a den with an option for a fifth bedroom.
Yep, correct. That's a space that's kind of a flex space that we designed into the
And
house.
the prospective buyer will decide how he wants that designed?
Right. It could be a formal dining room, a little office space, or if someone would like a bedroom, that could be occupied there as well. There's a full bathroom downstairs. But
Okay, all right. Now, I've got a major concern with the rear yards. It seems to me, especially in Lot 12, that you've got like a 10 by 14 patio back there, and then it drops off into open space that's maintained by the HOA. Is that the private usable rear yard for that lot? Any possibility that the future homeowner could regrade that portion of the lot so it's usable for them?
well, they have to work within their own boundary of their piece of land. They can't go beyond that.
Well, it is in their lot, but it's a slope
Oh,
that's
it's a slope.
maintained by the homeowners association, according to the landscaping plans.
What I envision happening is, of course, any sort of adjustment like that, you're going to have CC&Rs that cover the property. An architectural review application would have to be made, and the board of directors for the HOA would either yay or nay on that sort of subject. But if that is a permanent open space that's maintained, or permanent green space is maintained by the HOA. Being on a board like this, I would say the answer would be no. You're not going to be able to encroach in that area.
Okay. So the only usable yard space on that, on, let's say, Lot 12, is just the patio space that you're going to provide?
Right. We envision some of this is kind of that transition between an apartment and your first ability to buy a home. And we knew this particular area was being frowned upon as having a multi-family designation, so it's a single family. I live in a detached condominium project, and some of the homes I've got are the same sort of situation.
Okay.
So this is from experience that some of this has been developed.
You're going to provide the patio slab?
Yeah, I'm sure we will. It's part of the
Okay.
deal.
What about patio cover? Will that be up to the homeowner?
Up to the homeowner, but also probably I envision that being an optional item. That'll be
Okay. All right. Commissioner Looney.
Kind of along the same lines that you were addressing with patio covers, is the fencing between each residence, is that the responsibility of the developer or the owner?
to install initially,
Yes.
to be done by the developer.
Okay. And is that wood? Is it masonry?
We envision a lot of the rear areas is just in general. This isn't. I can't speak for every lot, but most of the time it's is going to be wrought iron, see-through. In some areas it'll be wood, and then between the houses would be wood.
Okay.
For privacy.
So in looking at the site sections, which were very helpful, if we put a 6-foot-high fence on the uphill side of that wall, we could theoretically have something 7.5 to 8.5 feet in height on the downhill side of that fence.
I've worked with situations like this before where, as we finish up the plans, as we go through the final mapping process and final engineering, final landscape plans, final fencing plans, there's a way to do it with a partial wood and then kind of an open lattice area near the top, which lets a lot more light in, so it doesn't feel like this really, cavernous situation. I did a project like that in La Mesa recently where we had the same stair-step effect off of, I don't know if you know that area at all, but it was but we had, once again, a lot of topography to work with, and that's how we went about addressing that. So we were sensitive to that issue.
Okay, thank you.
All right. I have no more questions from the commissioners, so thank you, gentlemen. Sit close. I'm sure we'll have more. We're going to open the public hearing now. You'll have 3 minutes to address the commission, and the first speaker is Judy Bailey Savage, followed by Kenneth Sims. Mr. Sims, if you'll be ready to approach.
Yes, I was president at that meeting when Christopher Darling and his attorney.
Name and address, please.
Oh, my name is Judy Bailey Savage, 506 Lada de Loma Vista, California.
Thank you.
I was present at the meeting that was Christopher Darling and his attorney, and it wasn't a meeting to resolve the issues. It was a bribe meeting. I was offered $10,000. My neighbor Kenny was offered thousands of dollars to not oppose this project and basically shut up and go away. And so when that happened, I was kind of shocked. So I hired Ridgway Law, who used to work for, Christopher Ridgway used to work for the city of Vista, very familiar with how Vista works and everything, did a career here. And he discovered that there was a straw buyer, TSHG Vista One LLC, that was in cahoots kind of with the city of Vista, and there was actually a city employee involved, and they use it as the straw buyer. There's very specific laws on when a city comes and buys up property in a neighborhood, they have like a certain amount of years to sell that property or develop it. They were on that timeline, so they did a pass-through, like, went back to this straw buyer and went back to the city of Vista and back and forth. Like, you can see it in the documents. It's really funny how it turned out. And I'm probably not explaining it exactly perfect because I've got 3 minutes. I'm trying to get a lot in. So anyway, that is illegal to create a straw buyer or a pass-through account. This organization has not bought the property. They're on some kind of extended plan for escrow that I've never heard about. Their escrow is like years, and they still haven't bought the property. So they have some kind of a deal going with the people in the land development. And my concern is they're bribing me and they're bribing my neighbor. Who else are they bribing in the city of Vista? When you find corruption like that, when you find corruption in a city business deal, and a straw buyer, TSHG Vista One LLC, was the one who originally was created for this deal, only for this deal. And when this deal was kind of like over, when they satisfied this one rule about how long you can have a property before you sell it or develop it, they disbanded that company. It was it was actually suspended by the state. That you can look up the company and everything. So anyway, I'm just here to say, like, when you have somebody that's corrupt, as this organization, bribing people to shut up, then you got to look a little further. So this is all really nice and everything, but they also told me in this meeting that the average cost of this home is going to be about $420 or something like that, $400,000, right in that range, so it's low income, basically. My property right now is valued at $600,000. Guess what's going to happen to our property values when we go and they start selling these properties for like $375,000? We're going to lose our property value. So it's not good for the neighborhood. None of the neighbors want it. And we are the people. We pay a lot of taxes here. Nobody's listening to us. And, if this thing does pass, I'm probably going to go to the district attorney and, it's going to end up in the election.
Okay.
All right? Thank you very much.
Thank you. Mr. Sims, followed by Bob Gutierrez, now Galtieri.
My name is Kenneth Sims. I live at 452, 454 Lotto de Loma. My property is affected. I have the access for ever to the back of my property, and this will not let me have that access. I have pictures from the 1950s showing the access. There is an easement. It's recorded June 18th, 1929 in book 1627, page 422 of deeds. Unfortunately, it doesn't say where the easement is. Of course, my contention is it's the road. Okay, my other concern is the traffic. The traffic impact report is not correct. We have 4 cars daily that leave our house. I own 4 cars myself, not that I can drive them all at once. But the street is 18 feet wide. It is not maintained. It's dangerous as it is. Our driveway is blind. We come up, like 50 feet below the street and enter. It's true, this project, that will help what they're doing, because that will relieve some of the blind spots for them to get out. But my other concern is that with the roundy rounds on Santa Fe, people are going to...
The roundabouts.
Roundabouts. People are not going to go that way. There's a train, 2 trains every 30 minutes to stop them. There's the roundabouts that slow traffic down. So everybody's going to leave on Lotto de Loma. We have young children at our house. They don't walk to school, fortunately. But that street is not, you can't walk on it. Saying that there's no traffic impact when you add 24 homes with a potential of 4 parking places each is just ridiculous. That's about it.
Okay. Thank you, Mr.
Thank you
Sims.
very much.
Bob Galtieri, followed by Scott Miller.
My name is Bob Galtieri. I live at 419 Lotto de Loma Drive, and I also own 423 Lotto de Loma.
Thank you.
Okay, so this project's been probably, 5 years or whatever. The city of Vista has done nothing to that street. It's a windy, curvy road. People do walk it now, but they're not going to be able to walk it once this project's in, because there's going to be more traffic. The street, All the blacktop is coming up. The stripes are gone. There's property trees approaching the road. So when you're going around a curve, you got the trees in your face. So you have to cross the yellow line. The city of Vista has done nothing to make it better during this process. They just let Lateral de Loma go to crap. And you would think if you guys cared, you would be making the street safer now, before this project. So I just don't understand why you would allow something like this with an already crazy street. I mean, everybody's agreeing that this road is not a safe road, correct? Anybody? No? So I just think that if you guys showed more incentive and fixed the street during this whole process, maybe homeowners would more be likable toward this project. But right now, you have done nothing to the street. It's like a black street on the city of Vista. And there's more and more traffic since Santa Fe's been reworked on. There's more traffic every day. And we're currently trying to sell one of our houses, and the people that come by look at it, they're worried about the street, they're worried about the more traffic, so we're not getting good luck on that. So anyway, I just think the city of Vista should do more to make that street better. I mean, I understand there's trees that you guys don't own, but if you're going around a curve and a property tree is over, like, do you got UPS trucks? They have to go to the other lane because the trees are approaching the street.
If I can make a recommendation to you?
Sure.
The Planning Commission's job tonight is to take a look at this project and decide if it conforms to the city's planning, the general plan and zoning. We will make a recommendation to the city council, and they're the policymakers, and you'd be, I think, better off discussing Lateral de Loma with the council, because it's out of the commission's purview right now. So I took up your last minute of time. Is there anything
That's
that
fine.
you wanted to summarize?
That's it.
Okay. Thank you very much, sir. Scott Miller, and followed by Lisa Moak.
Scott Miller, 315 Lateral de Loma. Over the years, we've had Bevmo, Lowe's, the redevelopment project. The city put in traffic signals on Guajome, Phillips, and 2 at the bottom of Lateral de Loma. This project, I don't know how they ever got that general plan to that density, but Lateral de Loma is 24 feet wide, the right-of-way. And without going too far back, there wasn't even a traffic signal at a stop sign at the intersection of Guajome and Lateral de Loma. So obviously I'm not a traffic engineer and I wasn't paid to take a study, but if you count those lots up there, these guys are proposing 96 parking spaces, 4 to 5 bedrooms, 3 in a den, whatever you want to call it. There's going to be a lot of traffic generated by this project. I mean, I know they want the homes along the access road. I don't see, with a lower density, they'd probably be taking 100% ingress and egress off of Guajome and not coming out on Lateral de Loma. So what's happening now with the roundabouts is the traffic flow is getting siphoned off of Santa Fe, which is now gridlocked sometimes during commuter times. The traffic comes up Guajome, rolls over, cuts across down to the redevelopment project. And I'm not saying it's all this project's fault, but you guys are kind of looking at everything in microcosm. There's this, there's that. There's a lot of traffic, and I don't know what the traffic engineer was thinking. And I'm not against developing that property. I'm not against having new homes, but people, you look at that project And then 2 lots over, there's a triplex where the people back out into Lotta de Loma. They back out into the street, and it's on that curve. So you guys are just looking at this thing with a microscope, and it's kind of, I think at this point, it's kind of the straw that's breaking the camel's back up there. And I'm not against development, and I'm not against seeing homes on that site, but I can't argue that it doesn't meet the density it's below the maximum density. I would point out, though, that, you know, if you come and propose 50 or 60 homes, and then you come back and say later, well, we only want 40 this time, we're doing you guys a favor, they're really not doing the neighbors a favor. I've lived up there for 30 plus years, and that's just a lot of traffic. And thanks for your time.
Thank you. Lisa?
Props.
I'm sorry? If you give them all to. There we go. Are they the same thing?
Good evening, Chairman, members of the Commission. My name is Lisa Moak, and I live at 586 El Morazo, within a quarter mile of the proposed subject site. I've lived there for almost 30 years, and I believe many of the residents have lived there, if not that long, they've lived there longer. I've enjoyed walking my dogs. With my husband, we walk 2 dogs along Lotta de Loma. And sometimes we hide in the bushes as the cars race by. But we love Lotta de Loma. It's beautiful. And it is intrinsically Vista. It captures, it's a jewel, it's a gem. Lotta de Loma has become a gem. And I believe it's become that way because the residents in the area have gone to great efforts to upgrade the properties, their properties. I've seen decorated driveways. Their homes have been repainted, re-roofed. They've done a tremendous job just upgrading the neighborhood. I remember in 2007 when the subdivision was approved with 15 lots and questioned, wow, how are they going to develop 15 lots on that site? It's so steep. Then there's oaks, live oaks on the site. How are they going to do it? And then I thought, well, maybe they'll cluster down at the bottom. Planned developments allow for clustering, but with 15 lots, not with 24. I'd like to commend staff and the developer for meeting with the residents and listening to all of their concerns and worries, which there are many. The staff, particularly Patsy Chow, has done a tremendous job consolidating and getting a 350-page report out for everyone to read. It's a huge amount of work, and it was a huge amount of work for the developers. I'd also like to commend the City Planning Commission and City Council for revitalizing the downtown area. The City of Vista has come alive, and I commend you. And part of that has to do with your design standards and their upgraded design standards. And to continue with high density in the downtown area, you have to maintain those design standards. The general plan is your vision, as I understand. And on page 24 that I distributed to you, At the bottom of the page, or in the middle, it says, Goal 2, to preserve and enhance the characteristics and features of neighborhoods that share common development patterns, topography, major streets, and zoning patterns. At the bottom, you'll see on the left of that diagram a good example and what's allowed. And on the right is what's not allowed. And if you look at the second sheet that I provided you, what I did was I reduced the proposed subdivision and inserted it in the surrounding area. And I don't know about you, but to me, what it looks like is the diagram that says what's not allowed. And while the density is permitted up to 10 dwelling units per acre, and they're proposing 7 dwelling units per acre, it does not conform, in my opinion, my humble opinion, to the surrounding area. I recognize that the city owns the property. There was a huge expense to buy the property. The developers have made huge expenses to produce the plans, to do all the reports. But I just want to recognize how much the people who live along Lotta de Loma, how much they've invested. My husband and I, when the project comes in, we might not be able to walk along Lotta de Loma anymore. It will diminish our quality of life, but we can take another route. But the citizens that live along Lotta de Loma, they're vested. Their livelihoods are vested. And they're there 24/7. I hope you will consider I hope you will consider denying the project, or recommending denial, or a substantial revision that allows for clustering, or that straight line of density, the 14 lots along the railway, and subtract out the 8 lots up against Lotta de Loma. Thank you.
That was the last speaker slip I had. If there's no one else that wants to speak on this item, I'm going to close the public hearing. Did you have a speaker slip in? Come. We're going to go ahead and let you testify and make sure. Very good. Name and address for the record, please.
My name is Taniel Simonian. I live at 520 Lotta de Loma. I'm approximately just about 500 feet from the project. My main concern as a young individual, as far as traffic is concerned, it is a problem. I just moved in 2 years ago. People do fly through the street, even though it is a 15-mile-per-hour zone. I don't understand how the 150 feet was discovered. So from the exits, there's a center point, and they're considering 150 feet of line of sight. At 15 miles per hour, that's about 2 seconds, 2 to 3 seconds. So a lot of people do not have the ability or the vehicle power to be able to overcome an uphill while somebody is coming above 15 miles per hour. So a lot of people drive Corollas, Civics, stuff like that. It's not going to be feasible for somebody to hit the gas and it will screech their tires, especially if it's a smooth concrete or a transition. I'm sure a lot of people have done it. Second is sound. For me, sound is of my most concern. We have the train. I'm assuming that the builder is building a wall tall enough to prevent the 120 decibel train horn from blasting into the people's houses, these new homes, which is also another significant reduction in value of the properties, because who wants to live in the direct path of a train horn? So unless they wish to create a quiet zone at Guajome and maybe the street prior to that to prevent that train, I live 50 feet above that train horn. And yes, it is a wonderful experience every 2 to 3 days per week. So that it is going to be a concern. The builder will have to generate, will have to notify that the new owners will have to experience this train, especially the rumbling at that distance because there is no hill. So they will experience that. Second, because I also live up on the hill, all sound travels up. We live in a valley as such. All the noises from the businesses, everything, from a hammer to everything can be heard. We are adding 24 homes, approximately 60 to 70 people minimum. We're not, and there's going to be a lot of noise being generated, a lot of noise. Considering right now that the houses is maybe on average one house per quarter acre, at least as what it is in that particular area. I know because I live on one house at 2/3 of an acre. So my issue is how are we dealing with sound? Are we installing any green walls? Do I want to see somebody's backyard or do I want to see some sort of shrubbery, etc.? And then how are we abating sound coming up from the bottom? And then how are we going to have these new homeowners who've never experienced a train horn ever in their lives? It's 95 decibels at 50 feet from my property. I have done 95 decibels is me screaming at the top of my lungs at 3 feet from your ears. That's what the train sounds like. And that doesn't even include the commuter train. That's around 75 decibels. No, I understand. Yeah, it's the freight train.
Your 3 minutes.
Sorry.
So could you summarize, please?
So yes, sound abatement. What are we doing about sound for the new homeowners, for the existing homeowners? How are we going to reduce upward mobility of the sound, especially the safety, and then also the safety of the speed of which people travel that street? You can put all the speed signs you want, all the children signs you want. It is not going to affect the individuals, especially young individuals who love to fly down that street because it is a race course. I race also, not on that street, on a professional track. And I understand the desire for going fast on a very narrow road in a car that is incapable of handling those speeds and things. Thank you.
Thank you. All right. Anyone else? Okay, so we're going to close the public hearing. You've already had your shot. Sorry. Any other? I'm going to close the public hearing and open it up to discussion amongst the commissioners, and we'll go from there. Commissioner Garrison.
Yes, Ms. Child, just a clarification. This handout, is that accurate in terms of the density of this proposed development compared to surrounding properties?
I cannot speak to as far as the reduction of it. It appears to fit within that envelope of the subject site. But since I did not prepare this, I cannot answer that question.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Looney.
Just to address Mr. Garrison's issue, looking at this engineering drawings, comparing the handout with the engineering drawings and the other parcels, they're real close to being 100% accurate.
Commissioner Looney again.
Question for staff. Coming back to the general plan and maybe even to legal counsel, these goals of maintaining the existing residential character characterized by large lot single-family residential homes, and that's policy 2.1, even policy 2.2 and 2.3. With the diagram that's been presented, it's quite obvious that the character, the existing character, is not being maintained. If approval is made and there's good legal counsel, could that come back on the city in any manner if these 3 points are not found to be adhered to? And I don't even know if I can ask that question, but I am.
As you know, the general plan is a document with dozens and dozens of goals, and so a project doesn't need to necessarily be fully consistent with all of them. It has to be in general consistency. Just because sometimes the goals of the general plan, the housing element, and so on are intention, let's say. Nonetheless, the commission is certainly has a considerable amount of discretion. The commission is can properly and ought to consider all of the goals in the general plan and weigh that as they make their decision, including the ones that you've just referenced. In terms of a lawsuit, of course, there can always be a lawsuit filed. When a lawsuit is filed, we have provisions whereby the applicant, the party with the financial stake, is obligated to assume the defense. And so it would be up to the developer to assume the defense. In terms of the standard of review that a court uses, there's a level of deference, and I won't go into it unless I'm really asked to, but there's a level of deference given to the determination made by the Planning Commission or the City Council. And finally, in this instance, of course, there's also what they call a legislative decision, which is the zoning action, where the level of discretion available to the Commission and the City Council is at its greatest. I know that's a lot of information, but hopefully it responded to the question you had.
Yes, thank you. Commissioner Bell, do you have an opinion?
Thank you. I think Commissioner Looney's alluding to the fact that I'm an attorney, and that probably loses me a couple of points in some people's eyes in the room here. But speaking as a planning commissioner and as a citizen of Vista in my role as a planning commissioner, I've listened to a lot of the perspectives on both sides, and I commend the developer for the work you guys put into shrinking the size of the project from what you originally had. I don't know how you did it with this lot anyway. I'm amazed that you were able to do this to this extent. I think it complies, in my mind, with the requirements of the city, size, setbacks, parking, in that sense. In response to some of the comments from the citizens and the local community, I cringe a little bit when I hear the mentions of backroom deals and conspiracy to defraud certain people. This is an issue that's come up again and again, and I'll just briefly say that coming into the Planning Commission, without realizing it, had a pretty general idea that a lot of stuff went on behind closed doors. I can tell you as a member of the Planning Commission, that doesn't happen. And this experience serving here has been incredible because I've seen the dedication from the city employees, from the other commissioners, and from our city in general to follow really stringent rules from the state and federal level about public meetings and what information is shared and disclosed. So is there a possibility that there's something going on behind the scenes in general, not here, but overall? Yeah, people are people, right? But I can just tell you that I have a lot of confidence in the city and the Planning Commission in the decisions we make and doing the best we can. So I don't say that to discourage you from pursuing what you think might be a wrongdoing. Please do that. If you see something like that, talk to an attorney, talk to people, pursue it. Most importantly, vote. and make your voice heard that way. But I will tell you that you should have a lot of confidence in this city, in the city staff and the Planning Commission and the people that work here. Having said that, I really, really have a problem supporting this project when there's a diagram in the general plan that specifically calls out this exact layout. And I have a lot of sympathy for the developer because I know generally how much money you poured into this. I don't know how I can support this with the layout in the, well, hold on, please, hold on. And I know that's fine to be supportive. I know there's a lot of emotions and feelings, and I get that. I live here too, and we all deal with our own neighborhood stuff. But understand that the developer's trying to build something for business because people have jobs, and they're trying to build houses for people that want to live in our city. So I get the emotion, but just wait till the end, please. So with that, that's my thought on that sense. I mean, because there may be challenges down the road, the basis for my decision as I sit this moment would be partially from the general plan and partially from my general community experience and knowing that neighborhood and not getting the sense that this size of community would fit with that road and my experience of being on that road and being in the community for a couple of years. So that's my thoughts on that, and I'm happy to hear what other commissioners have to say one way or the other on that subject.
Okay. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I was a little concerned. I liked the handout and how everything fit on there. And I kept looking at all of these sites and scratching my head and having driven Lada de Loma, because unfortunately for you, I use Lada de Loma to Guajome to cut through to make it through town. So I'm one of those bad people. I'm sorry. But so I was trying to figure out how this all fit. Commissioners, if you'll go to page 148 of 342 is the aerial photo that Ms. Chow provided us, and it is separated into the 6 different APNs that are involved in this project. And when you see this aerial view, Ms. Chow, did you have the aerial in your presentation? If you see that, you see how all of these houses and when you see in the yellow section from the handout, it looks like this, wow, this is a big lot, and everything is R1B. But when you look at the actual aerial photo, you can see, yeah, this one's better because it's bigger, but so I think it may help to characterize that it's not a bunch of stuff being stuck on a small lot. Some of these APNs are very, very large. So it fits. In my mind, it fits. And I sure like it better than 30 homes, and I really enjoy that residents can access the project from 2 locations, Lada de Loma and or Guajome, but then I also, understand that people can, who don't even live in this proposed Pheasant Hill area could use and cut through this. But then it may ease some of the traffic on Lada de Loma closer to Guajome. So, I would just say, take a look at that aerial and see what you think. Thank you.
In regard to the handout that was given us by Ms. Moak, I would agree that this would seem to comply with or conflict with that general plan policy, but I would remind the commissioners that the property is designated on the general plan as medium density, 10 dwelling units per acre, where the surrounding yellow area is R1B, and is that medium? That's not medium low, medium density. Okay, so it is a higher density. We've had that discussion. The council has had that discussion when the general plan was going through. The developer tried to do a single-family subdivision with, 14 lots, and because of the terrain and the infrastructure, it doesn't work. We do need entry-level housing for families. A single-family home in the $400,000 range would be, in a new subdivision, would be something desirable, I think. I do have some concerns about the rear yards and the usable open space on the individual lots, but then again, it can be considered a multifamily designation, and so maybe it is a transition between the single-family homes up on Lotta de Loma and the commercial along South Santa Fe. So that's my 2 cents. Do you want to hear from the applicant concerning some of the items? Okay, sure.
As it relates to the very first speaker, my attorney's here, and he was involved in a number of he was involved in a meeting with her, if that's necessary. I just want to, because
I don't know that
there was no
we
back
wanna
room
get it.
anything.
Okay.
Number two, the point about the neighborhood character, we're up against the railroad tracks right across where the commercial, and as we head into the new South Santa Fe, Paseo Santa Fe, the dwelling, the density there is 40 per acre. There is a 5-story office building behind our project that is being contemplated at the moment. I don't know that it's going to be improved. I have to just accept the fact that it, probably will. There's some other buildings, larger buildings, but it's new, and it's going to, as I see it, probably going to enhance the city because they're going to knock down 5 buildings that are really terrible. But it's just, as you head that direction, it's just natural that you're going to see some addition in density. I get it. Most of our traffic, the one gentleman was talking about trying to get out Lotta de Loma. I know that, if it was me and there was any difficulty, I'm always going out Guajome. And they have that opportunity. Before, with the old project, they didn't have that opportunity. So we worked that out. Those are the main things I wanted to just set straight.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to that about this exhibit that the neighbor brought up. This is if you're surrounded by that same density. This is not a transition density exhibit, transitioning from one high density to a lower density. Then that would be appropriate. If this was surrounded by a low density, I agree. That's not what you want to be doing. But that's not what this exhibit is depicting. Our situation is not what this is depicting, is what I'm getting at. And as far as the pedestrian safety on Lotta Loma, if anything, this is really going to help the pedestrian safety to get to the downtown neighborhood from Lotta Loma, because we have sidewalks that get you from Lotta Loma. Right now, they walk on the street to get to downtown from there. So I think it enhances the safety of the neighborhood more than detracts from it.
Okay. All right. Thank you very much, gentlemen. We were answering your questions. Okay. Commissioners? Commissioner Looney?
It was mentioned, the sale price of these units being in that 400,000 range. From the things that I've seen, the things that I've worked on, I don't think you can build a house and sell it for $400,000. So,
Yeah.
So I just think that number, because it was reiterated, is not an accurate number because
Okay.
it's going to be
Higher?
It's going to be higher. You can get an attached home for in the mid-5s, where this is a single-family home. So it's going to be well above that 400 figure. So as far as property values, there's not going to be that much of a discrepancy.
From the surrounding neighborhood?
Right.
Okay. All right. Commissioner Kramer?
Okay, might as well put it out here. I think that this project is a good transition. I think it fills a need. I like that it's on the rail trail as from that aspect, as you'd be able to go all over our city and into the adjoining cities because of its location. I think even though you might think that it's a negative on traffic on Lotto de Loma, I think it's going to help. I think that some of this traffic will go to Guajome to get out through the city. I'm going to go forward and make a motion to adopt Resolution 2018 next, recommending City Council approval of the mitigated negative deck for 24 single-family homes located south of Guajome Street and east of Lotto de Loma, APNs as mentioned. Second, adopt Resolution 2018 next, recommending City Council approval of the specific plan amendment, site development plan, tentative subdivision map for 24 single-family homes located south of Guajome Street and east of Lotto de Loma Drive, APNs as mentioned.
Commissioner Garrison?
I will second that motion.
Commissioner Kramer, would you consider a limitation on, or an additional condition that would limit Plan 3 to a 4-bedroom, eliminating the 5th bedroom?
Absolutely.
Okay. Commissioner Garrison? Okay. All right. Okay, so we have a motion and a second to approve the project with an additional condition to limit Plan 3 to 4 bedrooms. Should we call for the question? Cast your vote, please. The motion passes on a 4-2 vote with Commissioner Bell and Commissioner Jackal voting no. So the project is recommended for approval to the City Council. Very good. We're going to take a 5-minute break. If the kids from Rancho need to have their forms signed, if you'll come up, we'll do that now. And when we reconvene, we'll pick it up with public hearing 2. My day has been going great.
Always nice. Here, I'll take one.
Yes. 5/1/18. There you go. Same to you. Anybody else? All right.
You're welcome.
Yeah, so I'm the property that everybody likes to stop at to watch everything happen across, which is fine. Yeah, I'm at the opening, right, that's fine. Like today I even had a voice call when I had to back out to come here. We just started driving. And I race also, and so I understand. Flying down that street.
Okay, I think we're all back. Folks, if I could ask you to take your conversation on out, thank you very much for coming tonight. All right. Mr. Winters, would you like to tell us about the staff report on Green Oaks Villas? There it is.
Thank you, Chairman Rossler and Commissioners. This is a presentation for planning case P160484, applicant Providence Green Oak Villas, LLC, and it's a request for approval of a site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit for 107 townhomes. Project site is 7.64 acres of contiguous parcels. There's 4 properties there. Vacant land at the northeast corner of Sycamore Avenue and Green Oak Road. The site is generally rectangular in shape with approximately 700 feet of frontage on Sycamore and 460 feet of frontage on Green Oak Road. To the north and east of the project site is Sycamore Hills Apartments community, and to the south is a small retail commercial center. Across the street of Sycamore is, for the most part, single-family residences, both facing Sycamore and on the adjacent streets. These project site images show the site, how it currently looks. The first picture at upper left is looking south on Sycamore along the project frontage. It shows the higher elevation at the northern end of the property to the left. The next picture below that, looking north, would be from Green Oak Road, looking towards the northeast, up the slope basically of the property. And looking southwest of the project site would be across Green Oak Road from the south end of the project site, showing the commercial center that's there. Land use designations for the property. The general plan is medium high density residential, MHD, consistent with the surrounding apartment complex property. The zoning is RM15 multi-residential. The existing general plan and zoning designations allow for multifamily residential development at a max 15 units per acre. The project consists of a request for approval of a site development plan, including the condominium housing permit for 107 townhomes as mentioned, which would be within 21 two-story buildings at a density of 14 dwelling units per acre. Approval of the project would include approval of a mitigated negative declaration. The 21 residential buildings would have 4 to 6 townhomes in each building. There are 1-bedroom units at 989 square feet, 2-bedroom units at from 1120 to 1574 square feet, and 3-bedroom units from 1300 to 1574 square feet. And just to add a little more clarification, I thought it was in the slide, but there would be basically 7 1-bedroom units, 39 2-bedroom units, and 61 3-bedroom units. Landscaping would cover 24% of the project site. It would include drought-tolerant, low-water use, flowering plants, and shade trees. All retaining walls 5 feet and over in height would be planted with vines. Recreational amenities for the project would include a community pool and spa with seating area, shade trellis, barbecue, movable chairs and tables. There's also a tot lot near the pool area with play structure designed for 2 to 5-year-olds. There's a community clubhouse with multi-purpose room, exercise area, and restrooms. There's a open space with trellis shade structure, barbecue, and open turf play area that's in a different area of the project site. There's also a play structure designed for 5 to 12-year-olds and a fenced and shaded dog run in a separate area of the project site. As mentioned before, there's a central recreation area. That's where the pool and area is in the community center. One of the tot lots at the lower left-hand corner of the site plan is the other large recreation area. The dog run that was mentioned is in the far lower right-hand corner of the project site from looking at the slide. This slide also shows the pedestrian connections within the project site, which are the dashed lines that shows a high level of connectivity within the site, including enhanced pavers at certain locations through the drive aisles. Parking for the project, there's 297 spaces required for the per the code. 304 spaces were provided. There's 2.33 parking spaces required for 1-bedroom units, 2.5 spaces required for 2-bedroom units, and 3 parking spaces required for 3-bedroom units. Total required would be the 214 spaces for 107 units and the 83 guest spaces, totaling 297. Each townhome in the proposed development will have a private 2-car garage with direct access to each unit. That's the 214 garage spaces. Additionally, there's 71 open parking spaces, 11 loading spaces, and 8 accessible spaces, which have been located throughout the project site. This slide shows one of the buildings. This is the larger building's architectural elevations. The architectural design of the townhomes includes a traditional residential building form, but with updated design features and elements. The building materials incorporate plaster, exterior finish, and lap siding, as well as brick and metal accents. Metal awnings would provide shade and articulation to the building facades, while large window openings would allow natural light and ventilation to the open floor plans. The primary colors of the building materials would be white and light beige stucco, beige brick, and maple siding with dark gray metal. This is an example floor plan for the 3-bedroom, 2.5-bath unit. It's 1,494 square feet in size. It includes a patio that's approximately 115 square feet. Basically, you have a 2-car enclosed garage with direct access to the unit. At the bottom floor of the apartment would be, the condominium would be the kitchen area, dining, and living room. Upstairs, you would have 2 bedrooms off the hallway with a master bedroom at the end of the hallway with a private bath. The project did go through an early design review consideration with the Planning Commission in September 2016. The applicant listened to staff's comments, commission's comments, and made certain modifications to address those comments. The plan was modified to provide a pedestrian access to Green Oak Road and 3 points of pedestrian access to Sycamore Avenue. Additional pedestrian crossings with enhanced paving throughout the project site were added, and usable open space was expanded approximately 5,000 square feet, the size of the recreational area that has a trellis and shade structure, barbecue area, and tables, and so on. The applicant's going to show a slide detailing that area of the project site. A parking management plan will require garage parking spaces to be used for parking unencumbered by storage, with routine inspections allowed by the HOA or property manager as a condition of approval. Environmental review and mitigated negative declaration was prepared for the project. It determined that the project would not result in any unmitigated significant environmental impacts. The MND was circulated for public review from March 30th to April 18 this year. All comments received and staff's responses are attached to the MND. The project will be required to comply with the mitigation measures specified in the MND and included in the project conditions of approval. Staff's recommendation is for the Commission to adopt a resolution approving a mitigated negative declaration and monitoring reporting program for the Green Oak Villas project, and adopt a resolution approving the site development plans, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit to develop 107 two-story attached townhomes and associated improvements on a 7.64-acre vacant site located on the northeast corner of Sycamore Avenue and Green Oak Road. That concludes staff's presentation. The applicant also has a presentation that will tie in with some slides that were not included in staff's presentation and show some of the street frontages, if they can be allowed to present now.
Okay. Any questions for Mr. Winters? Okay. Mr. Barone?
Thank you, members of the Commission. My name is John Barone. I was before you once before in September of 2016, and we've made a number of revisions to the project that you saw before. To walk you through this very briefly, you probably remember, and those of you who have seen the site that certainly know that there's quite a bit of fall across the site, approximately 65 feet from the right to the left view, which is north to south, and that presented the major constraint in terms of being able to utilize the site. In 2007, there was a previous plan approved on this site that had max density at 115 units, 2- and 3-story structures with a density bonus and 19 inclusionary units. Our solution, which, by the way, represents both of these have 21 buildings, believe it or not. Our solution was 107 units, 8 fewer units, which would then not necessitate use of density bonus. We're going exclusively with 2-story units, and we have 1 fewer unit per acre overall with, again, 8 fewer units. I would mention a couple of things about the site here. Let's see if I can get this. Okay. Working from right to left, as you see here on the screen, the site really necessitates, if this were a flat site, about 15 feet of fall from one direction to the other. What we have are 65 feet, so in essence, we needed to absorb another 50 feet in the site. Early on, we made the decision that the majority, about half of this, would be absorbed in this location here, which is where you see the double-stacked walls basically hidden up against the hillside there with the big cut in that location. And we have 23 feet, in essence, of retaining wall there. Yes, I'm sorry. That is right in this location, right over there. And there's a double-stacked wall there, and as well a little bench between the walls. That was a very deliberate decision on our part because, as you'll notice in this location, the units here are all side-on to that condition. So basically, as much as you have 22 or 23 feet of wall height, you only see it from here or here with a peekaboo view. These buildings are all 31 feet high. So that wall is hidden and obscured behind the buildings. In this location, we have about another 10 feet. So we create two pads here and here. And then down below, we have about another 18 feet or so. So the 50 feet that we needed to absorb was absorbed about half in this location, here, and also down here. Oh, here we go. Whoops, sorry about that. See if I get this right here. Okay. So we've been able to, working very hard with staff and over a 2-year period, we've been able to exceed the city requirements here for common usable open space, for private usable open space, parking, project amenities, and landscape area, in spite of the fact that this site is horizontally challenged. And so the question, I guess, would be asked is what's the secret sauce? How did we, in effect, make this work? And Chris touched upon the answer, which is that in the location down here, you see that's approximately a 7,500 square foot detention basin. Originally, that was designed to be entirely permeable surface with storage vaults underneath. That's the natural low point of the site anyway, and worked out very well for drainage. The question we asked our engineer early on, and the commission asked us very appropriately, is, isn't there something else you can do with that? So we looked at this very hard. We employed a PhD hydrologist to study the flow rates on the site, and what he came up with was a design which, and I'll speak to this in a bit more detail, allows this for the permeable surface now, planted natural landscape, allows this area here for an active green space play area, and underneath that area and that area are the storage vaults. And over here, we have an additional play structure. So we have play structures here and also here. These would be contemplated for potentially 2 to 5-year-olds. These would be contemplated for, say, 5 to 12. What we've realized in looking at the market in Vista and kind of analyzing what has gone on is that in spite of the fact that this is attached housing, it really represents an opportunity for you couples and young families. There will be singles here, but there are also move-down buyers, and there's a variety of single-parent households. So a variety of different opportunities are presented by this project. Chris touched upon the design elements here. We made sure to use a variety of materials. We had primarily earth tones, but in different shades, and attempted to also vary the planes of the building here, and you'll see that better in certain other perspectives. Head on, it's a little tough to get an idea of it, so that we would provide a variety and a very attractive elevation for what we did. I might speak a little bit about the architecture, because what we do and what I like to do early on in a project is drive around, look at what's there, and then once we decide on a product type, go out and also photograph other projects, San Marcos, Vista, Escondido, in the broad marketplace, and pull out elements so that we can give our architects something to work against. And this is what we did precisely to come up with this product. So a number of the elements you see here are reflected in newer 3-story townhome projects, but we are exclusively a 2-story in this case. And again, we have, as Chris mentioned, we're orienting the project primarily toward 2 and 3 bedrooms, and especially a heavier mix of 3 bedrooms, because we believe this will be a family-oriented buyer. There will be some singles, but also there are going to be opportunities for other buyers here as well. This is a perspective that we had along Sycamore Avenue, and this is looking from the intersection of Green Oak Road over here, up along Sycamore and looking to the north. Let me see if I can kind of orient you to where that is. Okay, so you see we're at this corner right here. looking up along Sycamore. There we go. So the building here, I believe, is about 14 feet above grade. And you'll notice what tends to happen, and I'll speak to you a little bit about that toward the end of the presentation, is that the wall fades as we move to the north here. There's a dark green structure you can see basically in here. In spite of the fact that we're dealing with about, and again, I believe it's about 14 feet of vertical separation there, the wall itself is only about 7 feet. It will be obstructed by landscaping, trees, shrubs, and this represents a mature condition, but we are accurate in terms of the spacing of the trees, for instance, on center. And our landscape architect, our building architect, civil engineer are also here if you have any other questions. This is where, along Sycamore, the buildings are essentially pretty close to at grade. But I would point out, you can see some of the articulation in the buildings here. For instance, over here, where we actually have some offsets that we're using. We use a flat portion of the roof, and I know that was brought up last time. As it turns out, what that is a parapet structure, but it's actually a box. And inside the box, the bottom of the box is sloped. So we basically have all sloped roofs for purposes of drainage, but you get the impression, illusion, if you will, that we have a flat portion of the roof there. And again, our architect is here to explain that. He had explained it to me just a few days ago, and then I understood that we were not at risk for any potential intrusion there, or at least not from the normal source of having a flat roof. This is our main rec area, the center of the project. This is the box structure that I spoke of right here. There will be a scupper so that if this structure, for instance, is warped down toward from high to low, the water will drain out, and then there will be a scupper provided so that it can drain naturally with the balance of the building. We have our main pool here, spa here, and play area here. And again, for 2 to 5-year-olds, a play structure and our rec building, all self-contained in the central rec area. I get asked this question a lot, and I included a slide. We have about 1,100 square feet in the rec area, and this shows, again, multi-purpose meeting space, fitness area, men's, ladies' room, pool equipment, and so forth. And this is really sort of our pride and joy. This is what we worked on very hard for especially the last 6 months. This is in the corner of the site, right in this location here, and represents approximately 7,500, let's see if I can get us back here, approximately 7,500 square feet. As I pointed out, this is the permeable natural planting scheme here. Over here is a play area, and the storage vaults for drainage occur underneath here and underneath here. In this area here, we have a play structure, again, another play structure at the entry of the project for 5 to 12-year-olds. You can also see a portion of our enhanced sidewalk, which I think Chris made reference to, which is the internal circulation, pedestrian circulation of the project. One of the things we were asked to do is look at the opportunities for crossings, enhance pavement in this location, and connect then this circulation element with a looping walkway surrounding the detention basin. So, if you remember where we started, this was a pretty bland detention basin, which was a little bit of open space at the entry. And where we've ended up is approximately 2/3 of it will now be usable for active use for families, walking the dog along in here. You see somebody here with a stroller, and there can be a variety of uses down here. And I might also mention that within the project, in the corner location over here, there's a dog run. So we have 3 separate recreation facilities here now. Last time I was here, I was reminded to not forget the children, and I think we remembered them twice, both in this location up here and also now in this location here. So the secret sauce that makes us exceed the open space and usable requirements of the city is the fact that our engineering team was able to capture active use down in this location here at the entry to the project. We have enhanced pavement here. We have an enhanced pavement here for a landing experience, and then access throughout on this roadway. Okay, here we go. And I think I am back one slide. There we go. So what I wanted to also do was to take you through the elevation, because that was a question we received last time, for what Sycamore would actually look like. So I asked our architect to continue to back away until he was able to get a single perspective of the Sycamore view of the project in a single slide, which is a little bit easier to explain. And starting then from the north end over in this location here and moving to the south over here, which is where the project entry would be, in this location is where we have the 23 feet retaining wall. And you don't really see it from Sycamore. What you see is that these buildings then driven down are basically about at grade in that location. Then as we head south along Sycamore, what you'll notice in the green area here is that we do have retaining wall here building up, increasing in height to about 7 feet. And that's because, in essence, this area here is like a floating portion of the site. The roadway is declining, and the site must be flat to accommodate the condominium design. And so that's where you see the differential builds up. But from the Sycamore perspective, you only are going to see about a 7-foot retaining wall. It then moves along, and there's about a 10-foot retaining wall in this location, which again is picking up part of that 60 or the 50 feet that we needed to absorb. You see the side condition of a building here, and same thing over here. This is about our 0 point, and again, as the site floats out, you'll see the retaining wall along Sycamore increase in height, and again up to about 7 feet in location. So in addition to retaining walls, I'd mentioned that there are other planted slopes and berms and so forth. Moving on Sycamore to the face of the building is approximately 35 to 40 feet, depending on where you are. So in closing, I'd like to mention a few points here. First of all, we work very hard to meet and in most cases exceed the city standards for this project. Looking at all of the technical reports we've produced, there really are no discernible negative impacts on any public facilities here. We've created a high-quality project on a site that basically was considered almost unusable before. You remember there was a project here in 2007, and even in the big building boom that we've had in the last 10 years, this site was not able to be built. It just wasn't feasible to build that last project. And that really speaks to how challenging this site is. And one last thing, and in working on this over 2 years, this really represents a unique opportunity, I think, for the city to provide first-time buyer, moderately priced housing which is all market rate, will not have any inclusionary element to it. So I think it's kind of a win-win for everybody. This will help not only this project, but I think will also help to support the balance of the housing base in the city, will provide a new generation of move-up buyers, and keep the housing cycle more active in the city of Vista. We don't get, frankly, very many opportunities these days to work on first-time buyer housing that's exclusively market rate. So this represents a unique opportunity which we're very pleased to undertake. So I'll be available for any questions if there are any here.
Any questions of staff or the applicant? I had a couple.
Sure.
First, let me check with Mr. Conley. We approved an apartment project up on North Melrose next to the transit station, and it seems to me that we had tandem parking, an open tandem space and a garage, the single-car garage space. Has there been any problems mentioned from that project? We haven't heard any complaints?
You are correct. There was tandem parking there, and no, we have not look into our planning staff here, to my knowledge, had any complaints.
Okay. Your one bedroom has tandem parking.
Yes, it does.
That's going to be something the buyers will have to pay attention to. Okay.
And I want to add one thing about this. Believe it or not, this site was very, very tight, and every square foot of horizontal space was accounted for. We shifted on 7 units to tandem parking, which you see depicted, let's say, point one out, basically in the center of the building. That allowed us to pick up, I think it was, like architect can correct me, 4 feet. In other words, the building shrunk by 4 feet. Where that went was into landscaping, went into canopy trees, went into parking, and so on and so forth. So while it doesn't sound like a lot, it was very valuable space for us to be able to obtain, and we dropped in a one-bedroom unit as a result. We don't have many of them, but just enough to make the numbers work.
Okay. We have a question from Commissioner Looney.
One of the other things I noticed is that on the one bedroom, we do have that loft. But even if that loft is considered another bedroom, you've got the extra number of parking spaces to compensate for that. So I thought that was very creative in the way that that was handled. I don't know if it was intentional. But the question that I have is down on the vaults.
Yes.
So those, if I understand correctly, those will contain water that's runoff. Those are put into those vaults, and then they percolate into the other containers that go back into the soil. Is that?
Yeah, is that accurate, John? It's tied into the storm drain system here. This serves as kind of natural filtration, if you will. Then we have vaults stored underneath and eventually captured into the storm drain. But most of that water, doesn't most of it evaporate underneath the site?
You need to come up and be on the record, if you would please.
John Aarons, 4007 Camino Lindo, San Diego, California. I'm the civil engineer on the project. So the water will, as John mentioned, the water will flow to the basin, will percolate through the soil, will go into the vaults underneath. From there, it will not infiltrate into the soil. It will be discharged into the storm drain system out in Green Oak Villas and ultimately into the stream just to the south of our site. But it's at a controlled rate, so it will be at or below the existing runoff rate from the site.
Okay. And how much soil is needed on top of those vaults to produce that green belt area?
We have, I believe it's 36 inches. So it's enough to have plantings above the vaults too. So there's shrubs and there's ground cover, as well as there's a treatment level of soil and stone that the water percolates through to clean it before it goes into the vaults. So we're discharging cleaned water out into the storm drain.
Okay, thank you.
Commissioner Garrison?
Yes, I would like to ask, or just make a couple of statements. One, I like what you've done with the 2 tot lots. I like that design. I like what you've done with the sidewalks and the crossing pavers. I think that makes it much safer. I think you'd mentioned we're going to have 25 elementary, 11 middle school kids. So having that division there,
yes.
I mean, that's an estimate, but I think is really, really important. Where will the exits be, pedestrian exits?
Well, we have actually
there are 3
locations. Yeah, and I can kind of walk you through that. One of the things that was requested of us before was to try to bridge this gap, if you will, because we're floating about 18 feet above the grade of Green Oak Road, and get us down to Green Oak with a pedestrian access. And the pedestrian access would have to be ADA compliant. So we were able to drop in, can't see it real well, but right in this location here is about a 180-foot ramp. Not an inexpensive thing to do, and the ramp represents 5 feet of actual level surface area and walls on either side of it. So that represents one pedestrian access down to Green Oak and then across the street potentially for the shopping center. The other is in this location here, where we'll have gated access and again pedestrian access to Sycamore Avenue, either for the bus service across the street, which goes to the Vista Transit Center, or again, walking opportunity down to the shopping center. And then, of course, up here we actually have 2 sidewalks where we can access sidewalk along Sycamore over here.
Okay, that's the way I read it. I just kind of...
That's exactly...
That was a major concern last time.
Yes, it was.
Let's see, one more question here. In terms of your architecture, this may not be the right time to ask this, but it seems like you haven't done anything with window covering, shutters, anything like that. And to me, it looked really plain. So if you'd care to comment on that. I mean, a lot of your drawings have great drawings of palm trees and so forth, but don't seem to have any articulation around your windows. They just seem to be just plain.
Well, there isn't a lot of area to add shutters on the building itself. And one of the things I will, I guess, freely admit, in looking for what the inspiration was here and driving around the area, there were older 80s apartments which were Mediterranean style at about 15 units to the acre. We had commercial. We also have concrete tilt-up employment. So one of the things I drew upon was that there are other commercial areas and influences close by to this site. So I know everybody kind of has a different take along the on the architecture. I would mention something else too from our perspective in looking at this building was that we're really, I mean, I'm a card-carrying member of the baby boomer generation. Maybe there are some others in the room, I won't speculate, but we are actually selling to millennials here, and we wanted to present something that was fresh, that was new, that was compatible both with the residential development and also for frontage along a busy street. So we came up with this particular design there. I could have my architect comment on the window treatments. We did add right above here, at the request of staff, there are metal hangers, for instance, in this location. But everything is consistent with the architectural look that we ended up with. So I don't know if that answers the question exactly. Juliet balcony, for instance, in this location here.
Quite frankly, I just wanted your feedback into why you didn't do something to kind of dress it up to where it would have more curb appeal from Sycamore.
Well, we were kind of hoping it was dressed up, I mean, frankly, but in a different sort of manner. What you see along Sycamore, let me go back to, okay, here, building, this building, these two. There are actually, you see 5 buildings, one side on condition. The other 4 buildings are all front elevations because of the way the internal site plan works. So what you see is actually a very rich elevation along Sycamore because everybody's front door is on Sycamore, as opposed to other projects that might be considered, say, impacted, where they might plant parking or drives or other areas devoted to circulation along Sycamore. So we really put our best foot forward here. It was a result of the site planning constraints and also a result of just trying to put our best foot forward in terms of providing a rich elevation along Sycamore Avenue.
Okay. Commissioners, all these, you all have questions for the applicant or staff? Okay. All right, Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. I would like to just start out by saying that this is such an improvement over last time. Thank you, and thank you for remembering the children. I am very, very glad that you have increased the available community use space. That's great. And I thought it was very interesting in your plans that you pointed out how close the other parks are to this site.
Yes, because we were asked that question last time. We found there were within a mile 5 different parks, and Shadow Ridge 3/10 of a mile, and so on and so forth. So
I've
there
never
are a
seen
number
that.
of opportunities there.
I've never seen that done before, so thank you. That was brilliant. I am very glad for your other revisions, and I'm thrilled that there's no density bonus here. That's
Thank you. We didn't need it.
The one question I have is that the way your buildings are laid out, some side elevations are going to be able to be seen more than others. And I would wonder if there were just a little bit more you could do to those side elevations to make them a little less blank. That's.
Are you thinking in this location right here,
Well,
as an example?
wherever the side elevations are more visible.
Let's go back and see if we have something, because I believe there is a representation, probably not the best one, but okay, here we go. So this is what we have right now for side elevation. And you'll
Right.
notice there are a number of different planes, and there is actually a front door over here on the side elevation.
Yeah.
Because of the ADA compliant unit, and we have a stack flat sitting above that. So this ends up being, I think, an elevation really in materials, pop out, comparable to what we have over in this location here. I know it's a little harder to see in the flat plane, but we've worked very hard to articulate all sides of the building. Again, that was staff request of us.
Well, that's my only one fidget. Thank you.
Thank you.
Commissioner Bill.
Thank you. This is probably a question that I should know the answer to, but I don't. With the loft in the single bedroom unit, this is an open air loft. It's not a closed room.
No, it is not. It has to have a certain
By
percentage
definition.
of exposure by UBC standard
Okay.
to be considered not a bedroom.
Just a quick comment in response to the windows. I love the bigger window design. It seems like there's more glass here, and as someone who likes more open space looking out from the inside, I'm willing to forgive a lot less treatment because of that, and I assume that's a choice made in the design from the inside looking out as well as looking from the street to the buildings. And also, when you came here in 2016, my child was 4 months old, and I did not understand the importance of playgrounds. My child is almost 2, so thank Commissioner Garrison for just bringing this up on every project, because it's obvious you guys put a lot of work into it, and I'm sure it'll mean a lot to the people that are eventually here as this project moves
We
through.
think so. We appreciate that comment, by the way. It's something we worked very hard on. It was our number one objective coming forward here.
Commissioner Jackal.
Thank you. Back to the side elevations. I notice on the front elevations, there maybe canopies or something over some of the windows.
Yeah, you mean in this location, or I can't see them really clearly, but yeah, here we go. Okay.
Yeah.
You can see the shadow line
Is
there, I
there
think.
any way that maybe you could put some of those canopies on the side elevations? It's
Can I
just
ask my
another
architect here?
element.
And we'll give you a little free publicity here, Brian.
I'm open to any architectural suggestion that enhances the building, of course. So I have selfish interest in making it look good. So we do have a metal canopy on one of the side elevations on the window, and it's at the corner, so it kind of wraps around the corner. So it's on the
there's a laser in the
yeah.
center button.
Okay. So there's a canopy on this window here, which has a transom window, so it's a higher glass and a higher ceiling there. And that canopy wraps around to the side so that we get a canopy. And then we also have a canopy added here. And then on this other left elevation where we have an entry door, we also have a metal canopy across that entry just to help define that entry and provide a little more shade and definition for that entry. And if desired, I think a canopy could be added to this window here to help enhance that side if we wanted to add a little bit more definition there.
Yeah, we could take the larger window, for instance, add the canopy, which would have.
That would be great.
The canopy, I think, is our contemporary solution to the shutter.
Sure.
Rather than put a shutter on the side of a window that you might see in a colonial style, the window would be very narrow and very vertical, and you would add shutters to help fill in the space, essentially. With this architecture, we're going for larger glass area to let more light and ventilation into the plan. It's more contemporary living. So we still want to enhance those windows, so instead we're putting the canopy element above the window, which is a more sustainable way to shade the window and prevent it from direct sunlight.
I like that. Thank you.
One last question from me for both of you.
Oh, great. We'll stay.
Your Plan 5X is definitely a dual master.
It's a two-bedroom townhome plan.
Right.
Yes.
I'm concerned about their location on the site plan. I would have thought with who you're going to sell these units to, either two individuals, which the two-car garage will cover, but if it's two couples, you could have more cars. They seem to be at the end of the driveways and away from your open parking spaces. Can you walk me through how you decided to put them where you have? You have 16 of them, so your two bedrooms there are really 23 two-bedroom units and 16 of the dual masters. So that's my concern.
So we can walk through, let's see if I back up a couple slides, we'll go to our site, is it our site plan? Here we go. So I think those two-bedroom versions of the plan, those appear on the 5-unit building types. So as an example,
Building type B, I believe.
Building type 21 here, building type 15, building type 12. I think those are examples, I believe, of buildings that have the two-bedroom plan. So the idea was to distribute them around across the site, not have them all located in one specific area. So we end up with them being able to take advantage of street parking. And so in some cases, there's parking that's directly across. In other areas,
Right.
It would be on the street, just adjacent to the building.
Okay. In buildings 9, 10, and 11.
Yes,
at
they
the upper right?
would be located here as well.
Right. They're the
And-
last
and
units on the-
there would be two-car garages with direct access. Every home
Right.
has the direct access from the garage into the home, and then there's additional open parking on the street here.
So you're looking at the open parking spaces where they're going to park?
Yeah, our goal was to not put all of the open parking in one spot in the center, but to distribute it around and break it up and have landscaping to break up the parking. So there isn't going to be one gigantic chunk of parking in the middle. It's going to be spread out across the whole entire site.
Mr. Baroni, do you have experience selling dual masters?
I have to think back. It's been a little while. But in my experience, generally, it could be possibly two singles that would own the two.
Mm-hmm.
Generally speaking, it was not two married couples sharing a unit. You might have two singles with two cars, or otherwise they might use the secondary bedroom as either a nursery or office or guest room. But it was very rare that we would actually have. There are issues just as far as getting unrelated parties on title and a whole bunch of other things that you kind of get into.
Okay, very good. All right, thank you. I don't have any other questions from the commissioners, so we're going to...
One more.
Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Going back to the chairman's question about the 5X units, so a little confused on the buildings 11, 10, 9, and 8, and 7, they all have those 5X, oops, 7 doesn't. They all have those 5X units, the dual masters. Now, where would they park? Because that looks like it's in the back. Or would they park on Sycamore and have to walk all the way to?
No,
like,
we wouldn't.
building-
Everything's going to be self-contained as far as parking. We wouldn't have anybody park on the site.
There's parallel parking along the internal street here. So this would be open guest parking.
Oh, okay. Thank you so much.
So if you lived in this home, most likely you'll drive in this rear lane and go into your garage. Then you can go safely directly into your home. If you had a visitor or guest coming to visit you, then they would park along this street, and then they would just walk down this Paseo court to find the front door there. So it's just that distance from here to there is the distance from the open parking to the front door.
Perfect. Thank you so very much.
All right.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Any other questions of the applicant? Okay, we're going to open the public hearing. John Baum? Mr. Baum, you've given me a letter. Unfortunately, you only gave me one copy, so the rest of the commissioners don't have it. I can see that it's included in the record.
That's up to you.
We'll put it in the record for you.
Okay.
All right, and you're...
Introduce myself.
Yes,
My
please.
name is John Baum, B-A-U-M. Good old German name. I live at 920 Sycamore Avenue, apartment 12. The apartment's just to the right of the development there on Sycamore. Pretty familiar with the area. I moved in there about 2.5 years ago, and I do a lot of walking because of multiple work injuries from my occupation. I originally started out as going to a school to become an architect, got a Bachelor of Architecture, and couldn't find work and went into naval engineering and worked 40 years as a structural engineer for the Navy. So I've been around the block a few times. I want to bring out some things that you may not have seen in the neighborhood or recognized what's
Mr.
going
Baum,
on.
Your job tonight is to address the commission about your concerns about the project.
Okay. I had very little time. I was just informed of this 3 days ago. Never saw the site plan, but I wanted to bring out some problems that are in the neighborhood.
Okay.
At the lower end, where the cul-de-sac is, there on Green Oak, there is a public sewer main that continually overflows into the creek. And the picture on the second page shows the 3 manholes there. In the 28 months I've lived in that site, the sewer has come out of those manholes 3 times. 2017, February, all holes were blown out. You couldn't go down that access. There was water and sewer covering the entire intersection there. Across the creek, the entire parking lot was, the industrial area was water. So there is a definite sewer problem there. In July last year, there was another blowout of the sewer in that area. Now that all joins into that creek there, the Agua...
Hedionda.
Yes, I'm sorry. So there is a definite sewer problem, and I'm concerned that the site will be feeding into that sewer, and I urge the commission to have a research done on the capacity of that sewer. Also, the runoff water in that area is very extensive, and where you have your vaults, there is a natural or unnatural. They dumped a lot of stone in there, and when the water runs down the hill, down the driveway, it goes into that area, that lower area right at the cul-de-sac, and goes down and pumps through underneath the road. So you're going to have soil problems in that area. That whole area is going to have to be dug out and all that rubble stone taken out, and I'm afraid it's going to be very expensive. The traffic lanes down there on Green Oak are very narrow. You can't park much of anything on either side of the street and get through safely. The semis like to park down there, and it is extremely tight. On Sycamore, the traffic is excruciatingly bad. In the morning and in the evening, it can take you 30 minutes to go to or from Highway 78. And in February, when we had the floods, the traffic on that was so bad, it was 45 minutes to go from the main gate of the apartments to 78 because it was flooded. And going the other way, the water was coming over the bridge, the other side of the Tom's Burger. So you've got a lot of water runoff problem. That needs to be really looked at. The Sycamore Avenue, the traffic is so bad in the evenings that the motorcycles ride on the sidewalks or the dirt, have you in the area where you're doing your development. And what I see in the site plan is you've built right up to the street. I think the city needs to step back, or the county, and look at the street because it does need to be widened. There's too much traffic on there. There's constantly accidents, people pulling out of our complex onto Sycamore. If you go and look at the street, there's skid marks all over the place. There's broken fenders and grills and everything else because the traffic is traveling too fast, too much traffic, and no place to put it. So,
could you summarize, please?
Yeah, the street needs to be opened up more. There's also an extreme problem of road dust, and it's beginning to be a new concept of getting the tire grit cleaned up or to keep it out of the residential areas. In the apartment complex where I live, 150 yards back, they have grit into the apartments from Sycamore Avenue. So that needs to be addressed. It's becoming more and more of an architectural concern, community concern. In the plan there, it all looks very nice, but having fought 4 fires over the years, my son's a firefighter, he's an engineer, captain, he's also a paramedic. They constantly fight communities where they have too much parking on the street and the streets and access are too small. 2007 fire, there were fire trucks lost because they couldn't get out of a community. So I urge you to go back and take a look at that situation. Having been caught in that situation myself, it's a horrible feeling when you've got to abandon your equipment and run for your life because there's vehicles in the way or people are trying to get out and running over your hoses. I believe that's about what I have to say, and sorry for the negative attitude. My job was an inspector, find the problems, find a solution. Thank you.
Thank you. And then James Clark. Oh, PH3, I'm sorry, my bad. All right, that concludes our public testimony. We're going to close the public hearing. I think we're good, Mr. Baroni. Okay. Commissioners, open it up for discussion. Commissioner Looney?
Tough lot. It is a tough lot, but from my perspective, you pulled it off. I think the city, allowing you to go with those 13-foot high walls, putting them 3 or 4 feet away from each other, that's the only way to make this thing work. I would want just to be certain that we get those walls landscaped. So I don't know if it's a crib wall or whatever you're doing, but the architecture, it's crisp, it's clean. I'm glad there's no shutters on it. I think what Ms. Jackal brought forward as far as a couple more canopies, over selected windows, I think creates a little bit more shadow, a little bit more contrast. I think you did a good job.
Anyone else? I too think you've done a good job. I am going to be watching with interest how your dual master goes and how your tandem parking goes. I checked with Mr. Connolly. We've done it once, and it doesn't seem to have been a problem, but we'll be watching. So thank you. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. I certainly echo the words of all my fellow commissioners, and with that, I would like to go forward to adopt Resolution 2018 approving the negative mitigated negative deck and mitigation monitoring reporting program for the Providence Green Oak Villas, project P160484. And number 2, adopt resolution 2018 next, approving the site development plan, tentative subdivision map, and condominium housing permit to develop 107 two-story attached townhomes and associated improvements on 7.64 acres vacant site located on the northeast corner of Sycamore Avenue and Green Oak Road, APNs as mentioned.
Commissioner Jackal.
It's my pleasure to second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second to approve the project. Please cast your vote. And the motion passes unanimously. Very good. Congratulations. All right. Everybody ready to move on? Okay. Let's move on to item 3. And got to shift staff here. No worries.
Thanks.
Mr. Connolly.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman and Commission. This is a proposed general plan amendment and zone change for Thibodaux Road. This proposal affects 19 parcels, which are located in the overhead here on the north side of Thibodaux Road between Thibodaux Court and Watson Way. The general plan designation on these properties is currently commercial services, and the zoning designation is C1. These properties were annexed into Vista in approximately 1980 and originally zoned R1. They are almost all single-family residences. However, in 1982, they were moved into specific plan number 21, which is largely a commercial specific plan. They were zoned for commercial use, and there was established minimum lot sizes for commercial development so that the lots had to be consolidated in order to be developed for commercial use. This appears to be the city's intent to try to convert the properties to commercial use. The specific plan was repealed in 2012, and the standard commercial C1 zoning is now in effect on these properties. The residential use of the 19 or 18 developed lots are considered legal non-conforming. They do not conform to the current zoning. As a result of a request of a current council member, the City Council reviewed this issue in March of this year and recommended that we amend the general plan and zoning to bring it back into conformity with the residential use of the parcels. And so the proposal before you this evening would change the general plan designation from commercial services to medium density residential, which allows 10 units to the acre, and would change the zoning from C1 to single family residential R1B, which allows single family uses with a minimum lot size of 6,000 square feet. Staff has reviewed this proposal for conformity with the R1B zone. One of the lots, of the 19 lots, is under 6,000 square feet and would be legal non-conforming. The remainder of the lots would all conform to the R1B zone if the zoning was changed. The proposed general plan and zoning would not allow further subdivision of these lots based on the proposed minimum lot size, so you'd see no further splitting of the lots, but it would bring the existing use of the properties for residential use into conformity with the general plan and zoning designations. And with that, staff is recommending that the Planning Commission recommends City Council approval of a general plan amendment and zone change affecting the 19 parcels. And I'm available for any questions. Thank you.
Any questions of staff? Commissioner Kramer?
Mr. Conley, is there any effect on the homeowners, either tax-wise, any monetary effect? I mean, is this a good thing for them or a bad thing for them?
We believe it's a good thing for them. Loans are difficult to get when the property doesn't conform to the zoning, You cannot pull a building permit to make an improvement to your property when it doesn't conform to the zoning. And so they're extremely limited under their current situation to improve their property. There is no taxation or assessment of the property with change of the zoning. That only occurs with a building permit or a significant improvement of the property.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Commissioner Jackal?
That was going to be my question too, so thank you.
Commissioner Garrison?
Was this brought forward by the residents or by staff, or what started this review and recommendation?
It was a request brought forward by Councilmember Franklin.
Okay.
Mr. Clark, come join us.
Chairman and Commissioners, thank you very much. Jim Clark, live at 2044 Thibodeau Road, one of the homes affected by this. And we are most of the residents, in fact, all of them that I've talked to are in favor of looking forward to this change. We really have been stifled. For us, we bought the home as a foreclosure. There was no disclosure made by the bank. We have not been able to refinance. We've tried 3 times, been declined, even though we had a loan given to us to buy it. So it really has created a number of problems for the homeowners. We're limited on what we can do to improve. Finally, which John, the councilman, has started to request some improvements along the road, and we've seen some of those happen. So most of the homeowners there are just thrilled to see that this issue is coming before the council and you commissioners. So we highly urge you, please, to recommend this zoning change. It definitely helps all the 19 homes there and allows us to move forward with making a lot of improvements on the way the homes look, how they function, and improvement to the city. So thank you.
Very good. Mr. Clark, I have to apologize to you. Back in 1982, I worked for the city, and your house was the only thing out there when the Thibodeau annexation happened. And we had industrial land, we had commercial land, and we had this strip of single-family homes out there. What were we to do with it? So we made a recommendation to the council at that time to make it commercial, and with the requirement to merge lots. And we thought people would come and snap them up right away. Obviously, that hasn't happened, and 35 years ago, we created a problem for you, and I wanted to apologize to you for it.
Well, at the time, I think your idea was probably good, but as it turned out, these homeowners like living there. Many have been there ever since the homes were made.
And they're mostly owner-occupied, right?
Yes, they are.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. So,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you, sir. Commissioner Kramer.
Well, let's make it for 3 for 3.
Hey, can I ask you a favor? Since this was a problem I created, would you let me?
Absolutely, be my pleasure.
All right. I'm going to move that we adopt Resolution 2008 recommending the City Council approval of the general plan amendment from commercial services to medium density and a zone change from C1 to R1B on the 19 parcels on Thibodeau Road. Commissioner Kramer.
I second the motion.
Thank you. All right. It's been moved and seconded. Please cast your votes. And the motion passes unanimously. So, very good. You're welcome. All right. The last item on our agenda is a report from Mr. Conley.
So I don't have anything specific to report tonight. We will have another meeting on May 15th. We have a couple items on the agenda as well as our capital improvement program. And so I'll see you in 2 weeks.
Okay. Who was responsible for the interactive map that appeared on the neighborhood website?
We've had that in effect now for a little over a year, probably. One of our GIS technicians and the planning staff put that together about a year and a half ago after he went to a conference and found the software was available.
It showed up on the, neighborhood next door. That's it. And I thought it was fantastic. I was really impressed with how well it worked. So
Thank you.
very good. Oh, we got a bunch of questions for you. Hang on. Commissioner Kramer.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Conley, I want to say that those apartments by Fraser look beautiful. I drive by 3 or 4 times a week from different directions, and commissioners, we really did a good job. They are very, very attractive. Raising Cane, holy moly, they're going to be here like in about 2 weeks at the rate that they're going.
I think they're supposed to open in June.
It's fabulous. So I just wanted to say thank you for that.
Thank you.
Commissioner Looney.
Question on landscaping for, I think it's 100 Main Street, where they just started grading. There were some items brought up in the landscaping where those sycamore trees were going to be left and those were removed because there was a comment made by the height of those trees. So are they going to replace those trees with like height as well as species? Or are they going to end up with 12-foot high lollipop trees along this?
Probably not going to replace them in kind in terms of height. They will be a smaller variety of tree, but yeah, I believe the sycamores will stay on the street as a street tree. They had to excavate that area for their stormwater detention pipes, so we weren't able to save the trees.
Okay, thanks, Jan.
Commissioner Bill?
I was actually going to offer an update from the Planning Commissioners Academy, if you want. It's going to be short.
Okay, sure.
Oh, you're interested now, huh? I was just going to say that Commissioner Garrett and I had a great time interacting with people from all over the state. The usual, what you'd expect from people from big and small cities up and down the state. Really interesting stuff. I sent Patsy Chow an email with a couple of presentations for you guys to take a quick look at when you have time. She's going to pass them on once she reviews them. Just to highlight 2 or 3 things. Somebody from the city of Fremont, I don't remember what his role was, but did a great presentation on a couple of things they're trying to deal with, varying infill in residential areas where you've got single-story to 2-story to higher, and some standards they're trying to put in place, issues dealing with solar and how to protect that from certain residences that are single-story from the 50s. As you can imagine, from Fremont, there's probably a lot of legacy classic construction there. So take a look when you have time, and we can talk about ideas that we may want to put in a future date, but take a look at that. There's an interesting presentation from an attorney dealing with public records and commissioners and their emails, their phones, their texts, things like that. Good luck. That's all I'm saying. The general recommendation overall was if the city is able to provide individual email addresses, so nothing you're doing with potential presenters has to go into your either work or personal email. That's a best case scenario. It's probably not necessary for all cities. And then finally, there's a great presentation on tools on the internet that people use to share information, everything from population data to commute times and everything in between. So if you're interested in any of that in the context of stuff we're looking at, I highly recommend just looking at a couple of the websites listed in there. Some of them I knew about, some of them I didn't, but it's certainly incredible how much information from the census and other public records are being put into databases and transferred into visual data that you can look at really quickly and find answers to. And then overall, I just say our impression from talking to other commissioners and people from across the state was we're doing pretty good. Our city staff is incredible at preparing reports, and there was a lot of people that were very surprised at the amount of information and the time we got it ahead of our meetings and the access we had to it. So good job. Please pass that along to, whatever that means from every other city in the state. Clearly, every person at the commission thought their own city was the best. So that was kind of amusing to hear that theme up and over and over again. But otherwise, it was productive and a great time just to get a taste of what's going on in California. So
very good.
Yep.
All right. Any other comments? All right. Then we stand adjourned until May 15th.